Okay, imagine this. You agree to pay over $42 million just to make a massive lawsuit go away. You're almost at the finish line, and then, out of nowhere, another group shows up and cries foul. Well, that's exactly what happened here, when two real estate giants tried to escape a legal war, and things got really complicated really fast.
So, let's get right into the thick of it. We've got this multi-million-dollar deal, right? It's all designed to end a huge lawsuit. The only problem? A completely different group of home sellers storms in and tries to blow the whole thing up, accusing them of cutting a sweetheart deal.
So how did we even get to this point? Well, you've got two major players in the real estate game, eXp and Weichert, and they were looking for an expensive but necessary way out of a lawsuit that is seriously shaking up the entire industry.
All right, so who are we talking about here? The key players are two huge brokerages, eXp Realty and Weichert Realtors. They were defendants in what's known as the Hooper lawsuit, which is just one of several massive legal battles challenging the fundamental way real estate agents get paid in the U.S. This is a big deal.
So, to avoid a super risky, high-stakes court battle, they decided to settle. And you know what that means? We gotta look at the numbers.
First up is eXp Realty. They put a staggering $34 million on the table. For a company their size, that is a serious amount of cash to make a legal nightmare like this just disappear.
And then you've got Weichert. Their contribution was smaller, but still, $8.5 million is nothing to sneeze at. That was their price to get out of the same legal fight. So when you look at it side by side, yeah, eXp's payment was about 4 times bigger than Weichert's. Together, that brings the total to over $42 million. But this is where the story gets really interesting.
See, that $42 million, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It's actually just one piece of a massive settlement fund from a bunch of related lawsuits. A fund that now totals over $1 billion. I mean, the scale of this whole industry-wide legal battle is just mind-boggling.
So as you can imagine, eXp was pretty relieved. A spokesperson for the company said this was a significant step forward and that the deal provides certainty for our agents, their clients, and our shareholders. For them, this was all about ending the risk and moving on. But yeah, that's not where the story ends.
Because just when it seemed like a done deal, a whole new challenge popped up. Another group of home sellers from a different lawsuit stepped in and made a very serious accusation, trying to block the entire settlement. Now, this settlement was a long time coming. The offers were put on the table way back in October of 2024, and it wasn't until May of the next year that a judge finally gave it a preliminary thumbs up. But just as everyone was about to celebrate, this new obstacle appeared. So who was trying to throw a wrench in the works? Well, it was the plaintiffs from a similar case, the Gibson lawsuit. They were watching the settlement happen from the sidelines in the Hooper case, and they were not happy with what they saw.
And they did not mince words. They straight up called the offers sweetheart deals. Basically, they were saying that eXp and Weichert were getting off way too easy, and that the plaintiffs who agreed to the deal were settling for way too little.
And the accusation they leveled was a serious one. A reverse auction. So what does that even mean? Well, in legal terms, it's when a defendant is facing multiple lawsuits and basically shops around for the group of plaintiffs that's willing to accept the lowest settlement. It's like pitting victims against each other to get the cheapest deal possible. It's a huge accusation, suggesting the whole legal process is being manipulated.
This accusation put the entire $42 million settlement in jeopardy. Everything came to a screeching halt, and it all came down to one person, the judge. He had to decide if this was a legit settlement or some kind of shady backroom deal.
So this was the million-dollar question, or I guess the $42 million question, hanging over the whole case. Was this a genuine, fair negotiation, or was it this manipulative reverse auction designed to let the defendants off the hook for cheap? And then the ruling came down. The judge decided that the Gibson plaintiffs, the ones objecting, they just didn't have the evidence to back up their claim. The accusation? Dismissed.
The judge's reasoning was actually pretty clear. He basically wrote that just because one group of plaintiffs rejects an offer and another group later accepts it, well, that doesn't automatically prove a reverse auction took place. He said there was no hard evidence that the defendants were improperly playing the two groups against each other.
So, with that final hurdle cleared, the settlement was officially approved. But what does all of this high-stakes legal drama really mean? What are the big takeaways here?
All right. So here's the bottom line. First, the settlement is a done deal. For eXp and Weichert, this is huge. It means they can move on without the risk of a massive trial hanging over their heads. It gives them, their agents, and their shareholders certainty. But just as important, the judge's flat-out rejection of the reverse auction claim, that sets a pretty notable precedent for other companies navigating these same legal minefields.
So yeah, this particular chapter is closed for eXp and Weichert. But it leaves us with this huge, lingering question. That billion-dollar settlement fund is a pretty stark reminder that this industry-wide fight over commissions is far, far from over. And it really makes you wonder, which real estate giant is going to be in the hot seat next?